Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Jakarta Tech Talk. We are lucky today to have three great presenters. We have Eric Koslow, Michael Redlick, and Uday Tarataju presenting Java Trends Report 2020. Thanks for joining us today, and I'll turn it over to you guys right now.
Okay, excellent. So first of all, Hudson, thank you very much for inviting us to present today. Actually, Tanya Obradovic is who reached out to me to make this presentation, so I was more than happy to do so. So there's three of us of the four that contributed to this report, and we'll talk more about that in a minute. So there's the four of us right there. Ben Evans, who's the lead editor of the Java Q, as we call it, on InfoQ. It's a Q dedicated just for the Java and JVM languages over there. So since he's not able to attend today, I'll quickly do a bio on him. He's the co-founder of jClarity, which was purchased by Microsoft about 1.5 years ago or so. It's a JVM performance optimization company. He helps organize the London Java community and also a member of the JCP Executive Committee. Ben's a Java champion, 3-time JavaOne Rockstar, and has author of a couple of books, The Well-Grounded Java Developer, Java in a Nutshell, and Optimizing Java. So he's quite involved. He is, I forget his exact title, but he works for New Relic. And like I said, we always, Ben does all the approvals of news items in our in our Java queue, and also we have him do a final review before we publish. So my name is Michael Redlick. I am 30+ year veteran of ExxonMobil research and engineering here in beautiful Clinton, New Jersey. It's in the western part of the state near the Delaware River. And I've been writing for InfoQ for the last 4.5 years. Let's say I've also run a Java group for close to 20 years now. I think in February of next year will be the 20th anniversary. It used to be the ACG&J Java user group, which is now we're off on our own as the Garden State Java user group, and we're incorporated in a 501c3. So this was all news within the last month or so. So the four of us who are running this group now are very excited about moving forward. So with that, I'll allow Eric and Uday to introduce themselves.
Uday, would you like to go first?
Sure. Hey everyone, nice to virtually meet you all. I am Uday Tarataju. I'm a tech lead and a principal SE at Oracle. My primary focus is on search, commerce, information retrieval, and machine learning. As you might have guessed, I am one of the editors at InfoQ. They primarily write about Java, the occasional AI, ML, and DevOps pieces. Yeah, so that's me. Thanks.
Sure. My name is Eric Koslow. I'm developer relations for Contrast Security, focused on securing applications that run on the JVM from the inside, using instrumentation to defend how they're actually vulnerable rather than how they're attacked. Prior to that, I was one of the product managers of the Java platform group in Oracle. So I thought it was interesting to join the InfoQ news group.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I just want to say so we have a great team. We've worked together on a number of items, and it's a joy writing for InfoQ. It's very rewarding, and I'm sure you guys feel the same. So at the bottom you'll see the URL. I'm going to PDF this, assuming Google Slides you can do that. This is the first time I'm using Google Slides, but that's the URL for this report for this year. So I'll be referencing some of that, and some of that I can let you guys read on your own as well. So so the agenda I had planned here today is, what is the Java Trends Report, first of all, some key takeaways, and we'll look a little bit in depth at GRLVM, Corkus, Java 11, MicroProfile, and I have some live demos planned. And of course, that's always trouble when those things happen. So we'll see how well or not so well that works out. All right. First, a disclaimer here. So, this is the viewpoints from the four of us, but that only tells part of the story. Different areas may have different experiences. So this basically is just a way as a starting point for debate rather than making this gospel, okay? So hopefully this will inspire people in the Java community to start an open discussion. If you guys feel differently about a particular viewpoint, please send us email. We can provide that at the end. So yeah, we look forward to interacting with everybody. We go to different Java groups. We go to conferences and whatnot. So look forward to working with all of you on that. So the Java Trends Report this is only the second year. So this is moving forward, this will be an annual report. And the intent of this is to provide technical leaders in making good decisions for mid and long-term technology investments. And also for individual developers like yourself and in choosing, where you would like to invest your time in learning some of these new technologies. You may have some interest in learning, let's say MicroProfile, but you're not quite sure, those kinds of things. So we hope to provide, that kind of information to move forward on that. So, and this is, like I said before, this is the, the editorial team, how we see the adoption of Java technology and emerging trends. So last year was the first one. I didn't participate in that one last year. And then we utilize what's known as the crossing the chasm mental model. And this is basically, it's a pattern in market development based on the tendency of pragmatic people to adopt new technology when other people like them are doing the same. So that's the kind of thing. And this is, there's a chasm that, transfers over from early adoption to more late adoption. And there's a generic bell curve here. So you can see the chasm is what you have to overcome for success. And you see at the bottom on the x-axis there are the innovators and early adopters. And then once you cross the chasm, then you kind of, your technology will move from early majority to late majority. This is from the book by Jeffrey Moore. And there's the right tail there's a skeptics piece, and you'll see in our models where we've identified the technologies that we don't use that. So. All right, so these are the key takeaways, and it's basically this is taken verbatim from the report, but I just wanted to mention them at the beginning, and we'll talk a little bit more about that as well. So as you may not be surprised to hear, cloud deployment and containerization, is huge today. I mean, you can't go anywhere without, having an example using Docker or something with Kubernetes. So, and I think there's another competitor to Docker with Jib, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So it's, like I said, you can't go anywhere without seeing anything about this. So that's the first thing. GRLVM really has come onto the scene, and for converting binaries like class files from Java into native code. Right? And when you first started hearing about this 2 or 3 years ago, I would say it's actually been around a little bit longer. This was something baking in Oracle Labs for a while. And there may have been some documentation on that if you really go and search for it, but it really started to come on its own like about 2 years ago, I'd say, right there. And you'll see there's a URL at the bottom about Mandrill. This is Red Hat's implementation of that. If that's I don't know, Eric, you want to say more about that, or you wrote the piece on that?
Yeah, so with regards to Mandrill, one of the ways that I look at things being able to cross the chasm and become particularly relevant is when more than one group does them. So we looked at GRLVM, and that was available through Oracle Labs where you could acquire it, but the same way that Java has multiple JREs where you can get your JRE from Sun, from IBM, from Fujitsu, from HP, from Azul. The presence of Mandrill showing up as an alternative to GRLVM that's effectively built on the same thing is a demonstration that multiple companies are now involved and that the approach is validated because more than one group is doing it. So you're certainly welcome to use GRLVM, or you can use Red Hat's Mandrill build the same way that you could use Oracle JDK or Red Hat JDK.
Great, thank you. Yeah, so I have not had a chance to digest Mandrill. I printed out your news piece here, but it's better coming from the person who wrote it, right? So, and then the opposite, also true there too is Project Layton. Could be an interesting new direction, but this is in its early stages. Next is Corkus, and boy, this came on the scene a big time. And this started out last year in the early adopters and has moved into the next section for this year already. And we'll talk a little bit about Corkus and what it means for those who may not be aware of what it does. I believe it's only been around less than 2 years. I think it was released early in 2019. So it's really made a splash. As a matter of fact, this is by Red Hat. So Red Hat had Wildfly Swarm as their microservices server, and then that migrated over to Thorntail, and then Corkus came along almost as a replacement, I'd say. I believe Thorntail exists today still, but I have not seen too much about it in the past year or so.
Nope, they sunsetted Thorntail.
I'm sorry, they sunsetted. That
Yeah, sorry, my mute's going slow. Yes, Thorntail is
kaput. Okay,
kaput.
Gotcha. Being German, I understood that. Anyway, yeah, so we'll talk a little bit about more Quarkus as well. And Java 11, basically has now achieved close to 20% of production, and Java 8 making up the remaining 80%. And, this was news to me when I read this, and I just never really paid attention to all that. There's been no significant deployments of the non-LTS releases. And if you think about it, thinking about Java 9. Java 9 was the big, modules, JPMS and all that. And I know when Java 9 first came out, it was just so hard to try to migrate your application from what it was to JPMS. And I pretty much gave up, didn't have the necessary time to really do that. I believe Speedmint, they do a database similar to JOOQ and all that. They, I think, modularized their application. So there may be a few people doing that out there. And I have a graph later on I can show, talk a little bit about more of this right here. So there's also a URL at the bottom on that, written by Alex Blewett, I think that's how you pronounce his name, on New Relic's JVM report that came out earlier this year. Okay. So this is the model, the mental model here, and this is from last year, and this was July of last year. So I mentioned that for a reason. At the bottom, on the innovators, you'll see Java EE to Jakarta EE, and Jakarta EE8 was released in September of last year. And as you may have heard, Jakarta EE9 was just released earlier this week. So Corkus, as you see, was in the innovators section of that tail of the bell curve, and then of course, Java 12, 13, and beyond. Early adopters, Java 11 in that space, as you saw before, is 20% of deployments in production. And also to the non-hotspot JVMs. OpenJ9 by IBM has been around a bit. GRL is part of GRLVM. That's the hotspot JVM, or I'm sorry, the JVM for that. Helidon is a newer framework that was released just about 2 years ago. I've actually had a chance to study Helidon. I actually like it. It's quite good. And I've written some stuff on there if you want to take a look at InfoQ and do a search. Vertex, it's listed here as a niche uptake. I haven't seen too much about it. I don't know, Uday or Eric, can you say something about Vertex? I know it's a reactive framework, right?
Yeah, Vertex was a bit of a reactive framework, or you had to code a lot of things. So you basically had to, from my perspective, you had to write a lot of everything. And that made it interesting for people who wanted to do it at that level. But most of what I've seen from Vertex is it being folded into other things.
Okay.
Yeah, I think behind the scenes, Quarkus also supports Vertex for its reactive framework.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
It's built on top of that, but yeah, it's an interesting project.
Yeah, I've messed with it about 3 or 4 years ago, at least at one of the conferences I attended, but that was about the extent of it. Lagome is an interesting, this is a framework by Lightbend, microservices framework. And I know about 3 years ago, I was at a conference and interviewed somebody who worked for Lightbend and talked about Lagome. I haven't seen too much about it. I'm not sure where really, personally myself, I have not seen too much buzz about it, but it's there, here in early adopters. MicroProfile, as you may well know, has been around since 2016. They're on the verge of releasing 4.0, and we'll talk more about that in a little bit later on. And Micronaut actually came out about maybe 6 months before Helidon. And this is another, framework that was released by Object Computing, Inc. And this was Graham Rocher, who was involved in Grails, came up with that. And interestingly, he actually went over to Oracle earlier this year. And I failed to mention, Helidon was released by Oracle. So on the other side now, you have Kotlin, JRuby, reactive Java. So again, this is still last year's, right? So interestingly about this is that the Micronaut family of APIs has 3 reactive APIs that are not part of the core selection of APIs, and I'm still trying to find out why. And there's also MicroProfile GraphQL. That's actually newer than the others there. So there is support for reactive Java going on. I know there's RX Java and some of the other things out there. So, but yeah, so there is reactive Java is definitely popular. And then in the late majority, of course, no surprise by any of these. I'm not going to go through them one by one. So of course Java 8 and everything else hibernate. Okay, let's focus on this year, actually. So you can see some of the difference already. So JPMS, as you can see, is still at the in the early majority. MicroProfile held on, and Corkus moved from the left over 1. Okay, no surprise. Jakarta EE, of course, is in the next phase because of the release of Java 8 last year. JUnit 5 has been out for a little bit, right? But I guess people are using other things as well. Archillion is one, for testing. And then crossing the chasm, of course, JDK 11. Kotlin, what I wanted to mention before about Kotlin was, Kotlin was just another JVM language until Android made it the official language of Android development. And that's when that really exploded. And that happened about 3 years ago, I remember. JRuby, not quite sure who's using JRuby. I haven't really paid attention. So, but it's in the early majority there. And then the OpenJDK and the different non-Oracle builds, there's been Amazon Corretto, adopt OpenJDK, Azul, and we'll focus a little bit more on that a little bit later. So, and there's not much has changed over on the far right. Any questions at this point? Anything on the chat or?
No, we don't have any questions coming in. We just have people talking about regions, which is nice to see.
Talking about what region?
Talking about the regions they're in.
Oh, I see. Oh, cool. Welcome to everybody. All right, so here's GRLVM, and this that first bullet there is a quote from the website. At least it was at one point. So, a universal virtual machine for converting native code into, code in like JavaScript, Python, anything that is interpreted into native code. So you see. Ruby, Python. I've been trying to play with Python a little bit on that one. It's called GRL Python, I think it is. Yeah. So much more on that at some point. I'd like to play around with that. We use a lot of Python here at work. So, and basically, what GRLVM does, it really provides application performance and efficiency. And I hope to show in my example, what that can do. And more recently, it now supports COBOL. Who would have known? It was the big joke around the year 2000, for those of us old enough to remember, that after the year 2000 problem, they were going to freeze all the COBOL programmers and bring them up, wake them up for the year 3000. But yeah, I guess COBOL has enough out there to support that. So. GRLVM has a utility known as native image. And what's kind of interesting is the earlier versions of GRLVM, the native image was included. And then ever since 19.0 came out, they decided to say, let's use the GRL utility, GU as it's called, and have to install it separately. So it's kind of a bummer that way. And the latest version is 20.3. This is a graphic here showing all the supported languages out there. Ruby is one of them, as you can see on the far right. C++, etc. And so yeah, it's quite a nice tool. So a live demo. So I guess we'll have to get out of this way. And I think this is the here. Okay, so let's start there. Whoa, I don't know what this is. Attempt to clear scroll back history. That's okay, that's fine. Never seen that before with my terminal. All right, so I'm a big fan of craft beer, so of course some of my presentations I'll have to do something craft beer related. So I happen to have this, and I believe this is on GitHub, so you can try to find this. All right. So we'll do a NVN clean package. Right. And of course, it's we're going to have problems, right? So I'm running JDK 11 here, by the way. All right, good, perfect. All right, so we'll do the usual java-jar target, and this happens to be example JD. It's a long story why that is, but okay. Can you guys see that? Okay, I'm not sure what you're seeing over there. Okay, so
yep.
But, all right, so I have a beers endpoint, okay, and then if you want to know more about it, I should have done it by the ID number, but you can do it like here, pumpkin imperial ale, and then it gives you all the relevant information, the beer type, what the ABV is, who the brewer is. So there's a brewer in the JSON here, and I noticed L is in lowercase. Got to fix that. But we also have brewers as an endpoint. So, and then you have everything right there. So that's not the point of this. I just wanted to show that off. So, and I could have sworn I saw it start the, here we go. Startup completed in just over 3 seconds, all right? So we'll kill that. Okay. And then, so we'll do here native image. Now, there's a couple of ways you can do this. You can run the actual native image itself, and if you, when you find it, right, and it's in my GRLVM Java 11. Okay, so that's where you can find it. You can also, in Maven, you can have a dependency or an executable for that itself. There's a couple of different ways you can do this, but in this case, the native image. Right. Yeah, dash jar, and then targets, and then the jar file itself. So this will take a little bit, assuming everything works out. I had some issues yesterday, which is a good thing. I decided to test this out yesterday. This will actually take a little bit. And when you know what's working right, when you see all these different outputs here on what it's doing, so it's compiling everything, from bytecode to native code. And a good friend of mine, Tom, who's been retired now about 7 years, will always say, so who's from out of town? And I think the answer to that is a lot of you. So where are we seeing people from out of town if you're looking at that?
Yeah, we have Vienna, Austria, Lisbon, Portugal, Prague, Czechia, and Ecuador.
Wow. Awesome.
I know, we're worldwide.
Yeah.
India.
That's great. So this is at this point too.
Sao Paulo, Brazil.
South of Brazil, awesome.
Yep.
So here's, I got this. I'm on the program committee for the JakartaOne conference. That's on December 8th. So if you haven't done so already, and if you're interested in participating, it's free, of course. So it goes from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. It's a lot less. Because last year it was from 7 a.m. to 1 a.m. the next day. So it was shortened from 19 hours to 12 hours. A lot of great talks. If you can't make all of them, they're all available online. If you go to each of the Jakarta ones that have been, that have happened so far. So there's the regular Jakarta one. And then there's been a JakartaOne Brazil, a JakartaOne Japan, I believe, and a couple of others. Yeah. So, but it's really cool. I was asked to be on the programming committee to this year, so I was honored to have been part of that. So, so that's on December 8th, and hope to see you there. So this is taking a little longer. Maybe go back to the slides a little bit.
Yeah, so the GRLVM native compilation might take a little bit of time, but the reasons that people seem to be adopting GRLVM is faster startup time of time to initial performance and lower memory consumption of the other application. Otherwise, there's two competing approaches with GRLVM because it's what's called ahead of time compilation, whereas normal Java applications are just in time compilation. So the trade-off that you get there, or the reason why you'd make a decision to adopt or not to adopt, is typically based on if you need fast startup performance, like a serverless function, or peak performance of something that's long running. And what I'm hearing from a lot of people is that GRLVM tends to win on that startup performance, but a standard JDK tends to win on the peak performance of long running large applications.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. I forgot all about that part. Yeah, it's, that was a trade-off for that. But yeah, this does take quite a bit of time here. So, so Helidon and Micronaut both support GRLVM. Corkus, I think, has GRLVM, in it as well.
Yeah, Quarkus has GRLVM baked into it, which is really cool. And one of the things, I'm a big Quarkus proponent. I think that group has done an excellent job from the people that I've seen talking about it. There's always something impressive there. When I've looked at Quarkus and actually used it, some of the things that are good is you can run it in native hotspot mode where you have a standard application. You can compile it as you're doing now into a native application, or you can automatically just deploy a Quarkus application up into AWS Lambda or Azure Functions to run up there in the cloud. And if you native compile it, you'll have lower cost on execution because of the faster startup times. And the fact that Quarkus automatically does a lot of this stuff for you, it handles your AWS cloud formation to give you the right assets. It just makes it very easy to run on your local machine with full Java debugging, all that native experience, and then automatically port that application up to the cloud for low operational cost. Is just an excellent thing that the framework offers. Some of the times I know because it's owned by Red Hat and they have Mandrill, it's likely they will go that route, but to date, I think it's predominantly based on GRLVM should you choose. And there's a comment here that GRLVM is awesomeness, which is quite good. And yes, it does actually work with the Spring framework as well.
Ah, yes, the Spring framework. Yes, it seems like it almost seems to me like Spring has sort of been in the sort of the background lately, with with all these newer frameworks having come out. But yeah, they're still, of course, alive and well. There was a technical article written by Sergio Felix back in March, I believe, on Spring Boot and deploying to Google Cloud. I happened to review that, and will be part of a microservices series coming out, hopefully within the next month, I'd say. That's something I've been working on for quite some time. So,
right. So in terms of which applications you see are the early adopters, early majority, late majority, I see a huge amount of Spring Boot. Like I run into it on a regular basis and encounter it all the time. It's a perfectly fine framework to use. There's nothing wrong with being in the late majority, the early majority. It's just a matter of focusing on the problem that you're able to solve. But as you look to focus on specifically the reason why you're writing the code, I've seen a lot of people gravitating their mental attention towards Corkus simply because it provides a lot of rapid capabilities for application development that let you focus on the thing that makes your application distinctive rather than any of the underlying technologies of how to set the application up.
Yeah, absolutely. What was I going to say? Oh, Micronaut kind of copied a little bit of they're starting the server itself. Spring Boot, it's in main, it's springboot.run, or is it boot.run, something like that. It's been a while. This finished finally. And then Micronaut, it's micronaut.run. All right, so this finished. So sorry about the wait on that, but I think we had some good discussion on there. So in our target folder, you'll see an executable called Micronaut beer. All right. So when we execute that, maybe we should just do it from here just to be safe. So. Okay. All right. Yes, we allow that incoming connections. And here you'll see that the starter, the server started up in 66 milliseconds. So that's quite the factor right there. Out there. So that's the difference in there. But the executable that tends to be kind of big, which sorry, didn't mean to do that.
While the executable might look big in terms of application performance, the comparison would be a full JRE plus all of the supporting jars. And in that capacity, the GRLVM applications are actually quite small.
Yeah. So 74 megabytes. Yeah, so, but everything's, it's not like the executables we've been working with for years, right? So, okay. Questions? Any questions on that?
Nope, just comments about Spring.
Okay, good, bad, or indifferent. So,
I mean, it's a perfectly fine thing to use. A lot of people like it.
that's true, absolutely. All right, so let's resume. Let's here, present. Okay, all right. So Corkus is, this is from the website itself for Kubernetes native Java stack tailored for OpenJDK hotspot and GRLVM. Okay, crafted from the best of breed Java libraries and standards. Okay, so and they on the website too, it says supersonic subatomic Java. It's cohesive, fun to use, full stack framework. And what I learned recently is Corkus is actually a portmanteau, which is a word I learned from Victor Grozzi, by the way. So that's I always like to use that when you have concatenate two words together, or have to make up a new word based on two words. So it's made up of quark, which of course is a particle element, okay, and then of course us, meaning all of us in the Java community. The latest version is 1.92, and what I like about this is that there is a starter page. That's another trend I don't think we've really have mentioned, and it's the emergence of all these starter pages. It started with Spring. I think it's Spring Initializer, they call it, and then MicroProfile has one, Corkus has one, and I'm sure there's others I'm not forgetting at the moment. So, but yeah, it's really, you can really get going quickly, and we'll show you an example of that in a minute. So this is just a small tip of the iceberg list of the best of breed libraries that are supported in here. It does, have the small rye implementation of MicroProfile, and I believe small rye is Red Hat, if I'm not mistaken. They could be wrong on that, but you'll see Vertex in there, JaxRS, and all the others, and CDI, etc. But that's just, like I said, just a small list. I just wanted to mention that. So another live demo. Either everybody's groaning or happy about this at some point. So start right here. So this is code.quarkus.io, right? And then it has default group names. You can change that if you want. Well, we'll just stick with this. But you can choose all your extensions. And, I mentioned those few items, right, in here. But check all this out, right? It's got a lot of APIs that you can incorporate into your app, all right? So here's, the small rye JWT, Open API. Oops, I didn't want that there. Let's close that. Thank you. Let's see, hibernates, and so on and so on. And I don't know what I picked earlier. So yeah, the list goes on and on. And I'd say let's do a quick health, fault tolerance. Okay, these are part of MicroProfile. All right. And so, like I said, you can do what you want. You can generate your application, download it as a zip. I haven't tried this push to GitHub yet, but that would be an interesting experiment. But so we'll just download it as a zip. All right, and it comes here. Okay. Okay, and then do unzip. Okay. Okay, now what I like about Corkus is that when you run this as NVM package, I believe, Corkus dev, :dev, it's always good to read, to practice these things before a presentation, because I did Corkus-dev earlier this morning, forgetting that it was a colon there. Of course, I got an error message. But anyway, so what it does, it'll start the application. And so, of course, we've got to download all the different,
Yeah, so if I can chime in, one of the nice things that I've seen people talking about Quarkus, and one of the reasons I like it, is this Quarkus :dev gives you the full rapid reloading, automatic hot reload. So if you have your integrated development environment open, as you change code, it automatically reloads. And there actually Quarkus started. It looks like, oh, did you stop it?
No, it started. I've never seen this. This is using their new CLI that came out around 1.5. Okay. Yeah, so what I'm gonna do is I am going to What am I going to do? So split vertically. Okay. All right, so I'm going to go here back to let that run. And I'm going to make a quick change over here. I can spell today. Java, I think it's, was it org? Acme, and code with, oh, commando code. Okay, so if I do, let's see, let's say if I do VI. Okay, if we do insert and we change. Okay, so you can see where it says in the left window, it says hello commando, right? This is part of the CLI that they have these days. You can automatically create command line arguments type of thing here. So if we change this, commander, okay. Now it's supposed to do, if this wasn't a CLI, I think it would automatically rerun. But if we hit enter to restart, you'll see that it'll say hello commander there. So it does, I don't know if you want to call it a hot respot or not. But as Eric mentioned before, it does have that hot reload that you don't have to do a full recompile and start again. So that's a nice feature of that. So you can, you can do a lot of things with that. I'm sure there's things out on GitHub you can find for more comprehensive examples on there. So, any questions on that at all? Or?
Oh, there is a question. Sorry, I didn't realize these questions were in a different area. I was trying a Micronaut app where I have MySQL as a database and was using JPA for CRUD. I defined my entity class with Lombok. For some reason, it is not recognizing Lombok, ending with a compilation failure. Oh, boy. Yeah, Lombok is supposed to generate all of those getters and setters for you, if I remember correctly, right? I'm not quite sure how to answer that question. I could try to find out, without seeing the application. Is this on GitHub or anything that we can check out? I don't know.
Okay, so whoever asked the question, if you can maybe send us your application somehow, that would be I'd be more than happy to take a look.
They'll put it on. For context, because we're talking about Corkus here, one of the things that it has that's particularly interesting is for Hibernate and JPA, it has an entity framework called Panache, where you just code a basic plain old Java object, but you extend a Panache entity. And from that, you have all your get, set, storage integrated directly with Hibernate, which makes it extremely easy to code. You don't have to worry about any of the database materials, even though you're certainly welcome to pay attention to it if you like. So it again makes that easy also by making kind of the default choices of what you'd get, or the way that you would integrate it, especially with a CRUD app. And one of the things that Panache did particularly nice is they don't actually expose the SQL query, or they make it hard to get access to the SQL query, which for me, from a security perspective, because I deal with applications that get broken into a lot, you don't have access to the query, which means that you're essentially invulnerable to SQL injection unless you go out of your way to make an application vulnerable.
Cool. Yeah, I've heard some things about Panache in that regard. So, and I haven't used Hibernate in quite some time, to be honest. Okay, let's continue. I know we have an hour time, an hour commitment here. So, let's present. Okay, so Java 11, as I think everybody knows here, this is the latest long-term support version. We've noticed a sharp decline in the use of Oracle's Java binaries, and part of this, I think, is because Oracle doesn't provide support for zero-cost Java binaries for more than 6 months after a release, and these are the non-LTS versions on there. And as I mentioned before, organizations are sticking with Java 8 and Java 11. Java 11 being 20%, and Java 8 being more. I mean, some organizations are doing a little bit of this, and there's a pie chart in the next page. So, so that's something that we've seen over here. So I don't know if Oracle's going to, review their 6-month upgrade and maybe make a change moving forward, but that's up to them to, to do, and we'll see about that. And I mentioned before, the market is turning to non-Oracle providers of Java binaries and adopt OpenJDK, which has been brought into the Eclipse Foundation now, and they call it Adoptium, which I know a few people have actually ridiculed the name. But it does sound kind of funny, but that's what it is. Also Azulu and also Amazon Corretto have been out there. Corretto supports both 8 and 11, and interestingly, I believe they're not supporting any of the other non-LTS versions. I know I wrote about this when Corretto first came out. But yeah, that kind of goes to what we're seeing in the Java community about companies staying with 8 and 11. So I think that's an interesting observation with that. So this is a pie chart here. Obviously, Java 8 being the biggest slice of that pie. There are still people on 7.
This data comes from New Relic, by the way.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, this Ben Evans's company that put this out earlier this year. And the other slices, obviously they're very, very small relative to that. So that speaks to that. And then also to the providers, the percentage of those that are being used, and it's about 75% or so of Oracle, and then you can see the smaller percentages. Now Ice-T, I'll be completely honest, I've never heard of that one, but I guess they're out there. Of course, Pivotal and some of the others. So, okay, MicroProfile. It's been around since 2016. It was created as a response to Oracle's dragging their feet, for lack of a better way of saying it, in getting Java EE out. It was supposed to have come out, I guess, in 2015, but they kept delaying it for whatever reason. So a group of vendors, and that would be for MicroProfile would be Tommy Tribe, IBM, Red Hat, and who am I missing? IBM, Red Hat, Payara. They got together and came up with this, with MicroProfile initiative. The initial 3 APIs, which are considered the minimal for a microservices-based application, are context and dependency injection, otherwise known as CDI, JAX-RS, and JSON-P, so for processing JSON files. So those are the 3 that were originally released in, I believe, JavaOne timeframe. So that would be September 2016, and then ever since then, it's grown. I think I have a slide on the APIs now. The latest version is 3.0, and there are a total of 12. Okay, just want to get my notes here. There are 12 APIs on there, and those are part of the core of MicroProfile. And let's show in a minute here. MicroProfile 4 is on the verge of being released. It was supposed to have been released in June of this year, but Eclipse had asked the initiative to put together a working group, and that was the delay. So they have a working group now, and they are working with the Jakarta EE working group as well. So it's it was a benefit to the MicroProfile initiative. We'll take a look at the StartMicroProfile IO, but these are the APIs. You'll see the first 3 I mentioned at the very bottom. These are based on JSR specs as well, along with JSON-B, which came along, I believe, 1.4 or 2.0, I think 2.0. So the 4 on the bottom are based on those JSR specs. The 8 on top are now, these are homegrown by the Java community. for building more robust microservices applications. Now, these are for 3.3. So, config's going to be bumped up to 2, fault tolerance to 3.0, health 3.0, so on and so on. So, and another interesting thing is open tracing. It's at some point, the open tracing and open consensus have merged to create open telemetry. And there was some discussion about dropping open tracing in favor of open telemetry, but that's been delayed for now. So look for more on that as MicroProfile emerges. Okay, so live demo. We'll do a quick one here. Do we have time for this, Hudson? 11:52?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, so this is start.microprofile.io. Okay, very similar here, not as busy, I'd say, right? So again, it has the default artifact IDs, group IDs, and you can choose your version. Let's choose the latest. Let's choose 3.3. Oh, this is what happens here. I don't know why it does this. Okay, I had this open too long. Okay, I don't know why. Sometimes it allows you to choose your JDK version, but it's not doing it. Oh, maybe this one. Let's do Open Liberty. Ah, there we go. And let's do Java 11. Let's just choose a couple, health check. Let's do metrics. Okay, and we can do. Let's do full tolerance. Okay, and we'll download it, and that's demo.zip by default. Okay, so that we got. Keep that. Control C. I don't think we'll need 2 windows, so. Oh, first you got to unzip. Okay. So, here's where you have your demo right here in your source code. All right. So all you got to do here, since we chose Open Liberty as the runtime, okay, we can do MVM package and then Liberty run. What you can do, you can create a WAR file and you can deploy it to the Open Liberty server. I mean, that's there's more way to do a lot of this stuff. This is just quicker to do that. They can, if you chose Tommy, I think there's Tommy run and and so on and so forth. So. We'll take another minute here. I really like how MicroProfile has evolved over the past, 4 years, and more recently, they do offer the Java community to participate in their weekly, what they call Hangouts. It's on Tuesdays at 2 p.m. Eastern time. Is this running? I know it could be running. But yeah, and it's a Zoom call, and it's they welcome everybody, and so I've been participating here, here and there and all that. So I've gotten to know the folks, that are a part of that community. So here we go. There has been launched. So now we change this to, it defaults to 9080 in Liberty. So of course. Oh, okay. Oh, okay, I didn't finish. Oh, I didn't let it finish. That's bad. All right. There we go. All right. So what's nice about this, it has a built-in index.html file to give you all the different endpoints, which I think is nice, as opposed to, okay, which one is it? You can do all these, of course. Right? But I think this is a nice, start page for that. So you can do, Jack's endpoint to say hello world, so on, and config fault tolerance health. Okay, so this is a default health. You can actually create your own code to come up with custom health checks. Okay, well, I'm not going to do that today, but that's a possible possible thing you can do. The same thing with metrics. It gives you in Prometheus format everything you always wanted to know, but were afraid to ask on on your application there. I think if you do /application, I've already done here. Oh, come on. All right, something's not right. maybe it's metric. I don't know, but it's why it's not working. But again, you can also come up with your custom metrics as well. There are things you can do. Like I contributed to Apache a histogram, kind of based it on the last 15 days of the data of temperatures in New York City, for example, something like that. So you have a lot of flexibility to do your own thing and custom for the application that you're building. So I think that's really nice. There's so much you can do with that. And there's a number of implementations as small rye, and of course, Open Liberty, Payara, all the usual suspects are doing that. So with that, I know we're getting near the end here. Okay. Okay. Well, I have a bunch of resources here, by some of us that are relative to this presentation. The trends report from last year. Gluon is, I know, something that has been relatively new. The reason I put that in there in the report itself, there were some quotes by some folks in the Java community, some of the Java luminaries, talking about different things about Java 11 or GRLVM, et cetera. You can look at that. This is the New Relic report.
Michael, if I can chime in a little bit, more cross-platform through Gluon, JavaFX, and GRLVM is actually it's a trend that I see people talking about, but I don't see as often, which surprises me a little bit, because through Gluon and GRLVM, what you can do is create a single native GUI that runs across different platforms. So we go back to that write once, run anywhere, where you can have the same binary, same application run on Mac, Linux, Windows, iOS, and Android. And it's Gluon and GRLVM that enable that. And I'm a little surprised that I don't see more of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll have to write about it some more, actually. Maybe. Yeah, there's a number of things. I know, all of us have our, interests, and I tend to, focus a little bit more on Jakarta EE and MicroProfile and, everything going on. So, yeah, I think all of us editors cover a lot of good things, but yeah, there's some things that need to be, have more focus as well. Yeah, you can read all about how MicroProfile, the road to MicroProfile 4 that I was just mentioning, some more details about that. And let's see. And I can't indulge in one of these now because it's noontime here and I'm at work. I'd be fired. But if you happen to be, in a time zone where it's after work, then please, enjoy. And as we say in Germany, Prost. And first of all, thank you for spending an hour with us today. I'm really happy to be here and to talk about Java. So, any more questions? Anything, or is anything Eric or Uday would like to say? I don't know if Uday's still with us. I know he had some things to do. So.
Yeah, sorry, I was on and off, but yeah, no, nothing more to add. Thanks.
Yeah. Awesome. So, but so I don't know how many people are aware of InfoQ or read InfoQ on a regular basis, but please reach out to us. Our bios, actually not a first page, our bios, there's links to our bios. I think it has our email address on there. So you see how accurate I am with that. Yeah, so if you click on mine, for example.
All right, well, thank you, Michael. Thank you, Eric, and thank you, Uday, for joining us today. And thanks, everyone who tuned in to watch. We're just about at time to wrap up here. It was great timing by you, Michael. As you're on your way out, if you wouldn't mind helping us improve the program even more by filling out the post-event survey, which you can click the green button at the bottom of the screen there, and it'll take you to the survey. It'll take about 2 minutes to complete. But yeah, thanks, everyone. And if there's nothing else, I will wrap it up.
Okay. Great. Thank you again for everybody. Thank you, Eric and Uday, for being here. It helps support this presentation. Yeah, I hope everybody has a great Thanksgiving if you celebrate that, and enjoy.
Bye, everybody.
Okay, take care.